Can you tell us a little bit about this screening of Here's to Flint that was done by ACLU?
Yep, yeah, it was
Yep.
Curt Guyette and I forget the other woman's name.
Kate Levy.
Kate Levy,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah,
Kate
so
Levy.
we watched the documentary and then there was, I'll call it like a panel, I guess. The main characters of the documentary and a lot of like key figures in the Flint water crisis sat up front and they had about 2 minutes and they just passed down the microphone and they kind of had a little platform to say whatever they wanted to say, and so that was really cool. Some people were just very thankful, some were really fired up, some were just like, I still can't believe this is happening. So there was a lot of different dynamic and emotions between the different characters and the people and stuff. The response at the documentary, there was a ton of people there. Like, there was not enough room for everybody in that church. So it was really cool to see like a community come out and show support for that local film.
Yeah, it was crazy. The Reverend Jesse Jackson was
Yeah.
like 2 rows behind me, and I kept looking back. And I'm like, oh my God, it's actually him. Like,
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, Mark Ruffalo was in Flint yesterday too. There was a whole lot of support nationally, but definitely like Flint together, especially during that documentary screening. Like, occasionally people would cheer when like, oh, their friend came up on camera, or like Melissa's family was there, so whenever she was on camera, they were like supporting her. But it was really crazy because, I mean, I've done a lot of research on Flint and what happened, but seeing it condensed into like 30 minutes of, okay, this is how it started, and it was chronological, and they had a timeline on the bottom. So actually seeing like Governor Snyder saying like, oh, I had no idea that this was ever happening, and then it cut to a person 1 year ago being like, I've sent him letters, I've gone to the Capitol, and him being like, oh, I have no idea what's going on. You're like, wow, that's just a bold-faced lie. Like, it's not even him being ignorant. It's not a misunderstanding or a miscommunication. Like, that's very blatantly, obviously an untruth, which was interesting.
How was the emotion in the film for you?
It varied. Sometimes you would get really mad and people would just like, just like exasperated sighs, like, oh man. Sometimes people would cheer, and like, I mean, the audience was super interactive, and like Elise was saying, when they would see when people would see someone they recognized on the screen, they would clap or be like, oh, like they would talk out loud. And so again, it just proved further to the point that it was for the local people, and they came out to see it, and it was something that they were incredibly, like, they were really into it, and it was really cool to see the reaction.
Yeah, it was very factual, but I mean, a lot of the figures that were being thrown up were completely horrifying. So the documentary itself wasn't focusing on like the raw emotions, but just sitting there and listening to all these statistics and being like, these are people, like they're not numbers, and being surrounded by those people who are engrossed in that statistic was a really interesting experience to see the people watching it and getting really worked up.
After you watch that documentary, are you thinking about making adjustments for your film?
It's actually really nice because as soon as theirs ends, that's when we started making ours. So it's kind of like part 1, part 2.
Yeah.
So it was nice to see kind of what people were reacting to, but we definitely still have the same like beginning and end. We got some more ideas for like content or people to look into for interviews, but I think our documentary is still really solid because we did have to do like a lot of research. So a lot of the stuff that was presented, we'd already known about when we were starting to craft like the skeleton of our documentary.
So what is your time period focusing on?
It really kind of starts when the event or when the crisis blows up, so like October of last year. So that's really where ours kind of picks up, and we're going to start the documentary with a really intense news montage that'll be
National
like 2 minutes.
attention.
Yeah, just to kind of get everybody that's watching up to speed, like, okay, in case you don't know what's happening, this is what's happening in a quick 2-minute montage episode thing, and then go right into present day, I guess you could say, so ending like October-ish to December.
Yeah, because we really want to focus on how people are surviving it and like what they're looking forward to in the future. Like, we were talking to Dr. Mona, and she was talking to like, okay, I mean, there's nothing that we can do to stop this from happening. Like, this happened, and now we can like stop it from happening in other cities. We can treat lead. We can do all these things to help each other and grow as a community. But I mean, it happened, and it's horrible, but we really want to focus on like what's next for Flint.